Hello everyone, Lunar Warfare. Welcome to the second episode of the Chaos Report, the weekly or bi-weekly Path of Exile series that will focus on the economy of the Softcore Challenge League. In this episode, I'll be covering the items and farming or crafting strategies that have seen a big rise in the first few days of the Legion launch, as well as taking a quick peek at what might be to come in the next week. Please do keep in mind that these are educated guesses or predictions, and as such they might not be entirely accurate. Furthermore, I might miss a thing or two that seem obvious to many, and for that I apologize. It's hard to cover everything after all. As such, invest at your own risk. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's get started. To start off with, let's take a quick peek at how predictions from last week have shaken out so far in Legion and their potential trajectories in the future. First up, the combination of jewels, Transcendent Flesh and Tempered Flesh. As predicted, both saw a huge rise in price. However, the base version Tempered Flesh is holding itself quite steady at the lower 5 to 10 chaos area. This is very likely due to the ease of obtaining it, as it's among the uncommon drop table for the Omnitech, and at this point pretty much everybody in the league has done him at least once or twice already. The upgraded Transcendent Flesh, however, has been climbing steadily over the past week and will likely continue to rise over the next week as well. The Carcass Jack that we predicted to rise quite considerably has done exactly that in the first week of Legion. It's seen a rather rapid rise and has been starting to decline a little at the later stages of the first week. It likely has to do with many people either switching from the Carcass Jack to a more endgame option, or simply being content with the large amount of area of effect that the passive tree and other sources provide. It'll be very likely continue to fall and balance itself out somewhere around the 20 to 30 chaos range, I would assume. Again, just a rough estimate, so don't take it for granted, of course. Following that, the rest of Salute has seen a rather bumpy yet steady rise and seems to be going strong for the next little while. Very likely that many Cyclone players, specifically Slayers, due to the overleech mechanic keeping them topped off, are reaching their full stride in these days and are thusly picking it up more and more. It'll likely stay relevant for at least another week, if not longer. One of the big hits on the list of uniques that we predicted to rise is Rithlas's Coil. This puppy didn't even reach 20 chaos in the entirety of Synthesis League, despite being quite rare. Yet in Legion, it's already been on an insane rise, hitting upwards of 45 chaos price point, and in showing no signs of stopping. One of the only semi-guaranteed ways to acquire this build is by farming the wretched Divination card. This might be a worthwhile endeavor if this build continues to rise. If you plan to do so, Tower is a very lucrative map to shape your atlas around, as it also drops the Divination card The Nurse, which turns into the Doctor and ends in the Headhunter unique build. Definitely recommend keeping an eye on this one, especially with more and more people realizing the power of pure physical builds in the Impale mechanic. Moving on to our largest jackpot prediction, as much as it was obvious this would happen, the Lion's Roar Granite Flask. This absolute beast of a flask has shot up from a meager 1 to 2 chaos in Synthesis League to become the most expensive flask in Legion at over 85 chaos as of writing this segment of the video. A perfectly rolled Lion's Roar can even go as high as 1 to 2 Exalted Orbs, or an equivalent of 150 to 200 chaos. If you plan to target farm this flask in particular, you'll be looking for the Earth Drinker Divination card, which can primarily be found in the dunes and desert maps. However, during my own personal testing, I have also seen a singular Earth Drinker drop in the Desert Spring map. This, however, is not reflected on the wiki, so I'm not 100% on whether it was a random lucky drop from a potential incubator running, or if the card was actually finally added to the Desert Spring map itself. If it has indeed been added, the best way to get it would be on Desert Spring, as it boasts the highest amount of mobs in the entire game, including a gigantic amount of additional magic and rare monsters. If any of you found this div card in Desert Spring as well, or you're willing to test it for me, please leave a comment down below to verify, so we can add it to the appropriate wiki pages, of course. Furthermore, our Paradoxica prediction has also proven to be quite the worthwhile investment. While yes, it's only the first league and especially limited items like the Paradoxica, which can only drop as part of a particular league's interactions, comparatively to the previous league, it has already seen a 5x price increase. Additionally, over the last few days it has seen a slight bump in price as well, after its rather rapid descent, which leads me to assume that it will likely stick around the 100 to 150 chaos mark for quite some time to come. If this is going to be your item of choice, for farming purposes, try to buy as many June-related Master Prophecies as possible, and interact with the Immortal Syndicate every chance you get, as this is the only way to acquire this item in the entire game. As for potential veiled mods on it, attack speed is king. Any attack speed option will outweigh any other option by a landmire. For the prefix, try to get the highest physical damage increase, as physical damage seems to be the current flavor of the month, as previously mentioned. Our last prediction, the hemophilia gloves, have seen a rather drastic rise and then an equally drastic descent in terms of price. They were likely used in the first few days as a crutch for builds with lower clear speeds in order to farm specific maps and monsters while the league was still young. Additionally, as people have realized that these gloves do not seem to interact with the league mechanic at all, they have been rapidly dumped by most players. I would advise a light investment at this point, as it is very likely that GGG will fix a lot of these interactions during the course of the league, such as the Gladiator Bleed explosions, and following that, the Hemophilia as well. They're currently dipping slowly below the 15 Chaos price point, which is still a drastic increase to last league's steady 1 Chaos price point, however. Our other predictions have either seen no notable investment profit to report here, or have not been worth investing into after all. Thus is the life of economic predictions after all. Now, moving on to our second topic, let's take a quick look at the overall build diversity and meta in the current Legion League. As expected, we see that the majority of players at 31%, 10% and 7% for a total of 47% of the entire player base have opted into one of the reworked ascendancies, which are mostly melee related. The number one used skill, by a large margin, is Cyclone. This pretty much reflects the price of the items we've just looked at previously. Items that primarily increase weapon range, AoE, physical damage and movement speed are all very much beloved by this particular skill and their players. What is surprising, however, is that many of the 31% Slayer players are actually ranged. They are likely using the 8% base crit node to boost up their already powerful unique weaponry to even greater heights. Furthermore, a little over 20% of the player base seems to still be playing with the Trexter Ascendancy, indicative of the still apparent power of spell builds and their rightful place in the current meta. A lot of these are playing Essence Drain Contagion, due to its ridiculously overpowered Legion farming potential, however. This makes it extremely easy to target craft and farm specific items for these kinds of players. Keeping these two main groups of players in mind, the Cyclones and the EG Contagion players, we can come up with a basic plan for crafting and farming for this following week. Let's head on over to the base type list and take a quick peek if our general idea are reflected there as well, and to get a rough idea if we should farm in specific areas of the atlas. As we can see here, it indeed seems to be the way that the most expensive items are focusing on the Cyclone playstyle, with some spell-based content still being valuable as well. The most optimal farming strategy seems to be high-level Elder maps, specifically ones that can drop the Steel Rings and Spike Glove bases, as those will be rare but additional income. Taking a subsequent look at the current atlas, we can deduce a fairly good farming strategy, keeping all of our earlier points in mind. Optimal farming areas will include, but of course aren't limited to, Sunken City, due to its Steel Ring drop chance as well as its good layout, Summit, also for the Steel Rings, if you don't mind the T16 drops, that'll inevitably happen of course, and Siege, the last of the viable Steel Ring places, in my personal opinion. Orchid and Val Pyramid are disliked by the majority of the community for good reasons, really. They're annoying maps to run and don't offer that much that other maps don't. As such, try to avoid these unless you specifically like them for whatever reason. On the other side of the atlas, we can take a quick peek at the Spike Glove spawns. Here are my personal recommendations and favorites. Basilica. It has amazing divination card drops with the Innocent, the Celestial Stone, and the Undaunted. Any additional income is always welcome, of course. Racecourse, due to its amazing layout and the ease of running it. If you guys remember, a few leagues back, this used to be the main map everybody ran, so might be time to return to it. Excavation. Due to its absolutely fantastic lineup of div cards, the new Sulfite Scarab and the Cacophony, this is my personal favorite choice. I've already set up my Elder farm on this one. I'm currently in the process of figuring out just how viable the Sulfite div cards really are, and trying to deduct a rough drop rate for them. As a little side note, these div cards also drop in the Crystal Ore map, in case anybody wants to farm that one instead. These are my personal recommendations for the first 1 to 2 weeks of Legion. Remember to elder your map of choice, as you want those eye level 85 to 86 spaces, as well as adding those juicy sextants. You know how to invest in your maps, I'm sure. If not, I can make a tutorial about that if you want me to. Please let me know in the comments down below. I could cover things like how to set up your shaped atlas, how to elder or shape ping pong, etc. but I feel like there's a lot of those guides out there already. Just let me know what you think. Now for the last little segment, I just want to throw out a few little crafting and farming tips for the last few minutes that we have in this video. Right now, there are a lot of different ways to make an absolute killing on the Trade League, even with very basic crafting and farming. Here's a few ways. Alteration spam at eye level 83 or higher Siege Axe, Imperial Claw, or Jewel Foil until you hit Merciless. That's the T1 percentage physical roll. Selling those bases can add multiple Exalted Orb without the need for multi-modding it yourself. Alteration spamming some jewels, whether Abyss or not, can yield a large amount of easy currency on the side as well. Even though they were nerfed in the last patch, they are still quite easy to roll. Try to aim for Critical Strike Multiplier plus percentage life on normal jewels, and those juicy flat life plus flat T1 rolls on Abyss jewels. Try to match the flat rolls on the Abyss jewels, of course. So for example, if you are taking cold damage, you should roll the second one as cold as well. Farm the icy areas in the Azurite mine. That's Delvely content, and look out for the serrated fossils. They spawn behind destructible walls and can drop in groups of up to 3. Each single fossil is worth about 15 chaos at the current moment. Easy to do for anyone, as it doesn't necessarily require high depth delves, though of course, whoever can handle the depth will see more drops and more returns. If you do not know how delving works, there are multiple guides available on YouTube, or you can come over to my stream and ask me for a quick rundown whenever you feel like it. And with those last few tips, I'll be ending this week's Chaos Report. I hope this video was informative and you learned something from it that you can apply to your own game. Please let me know if I missed anything or you would have wanted me to talk about anything in specific that I might not have covered. Also, let me know what your personal predictions are going to be for these coming weeks. Furthermore, let me know if you would like to see me cover a particular topic regarding Path of Exile. I'm always willing to explore new video types or add extra segments to this series. Lastly, give me some feedback on this new series. How did you enjoy it? Did I cover too many things at once, or too few? Did I not go in depth enough, or too in depth on particular topics? And of course, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell thingamajig, like or dislike the video, and check me out over on twitch.tv/LoneWolf. You can find a link to my stream down below in the description as well. And with that, thanks for watching, and keep farming those exos.